Hi, everyone. Welcome to our workshop today. We're going to play some games. We're going to enjoy the afternoon together virtually and show you how to use your board games that you may have in your classroom from a distance. My name is Heidi Schuler-Jones, and I'm the daughter of Sue and Alan Schuler, who are the creators of the Muggins Math Series. We have a set of 9 math games that we've developed over the years that work from anything from whole numbers to fractions to integers, and we have a couple of hands-on manipulatives as well that we invite you to take a look at. We have all the videos on our YouTube channel, which you can find at our booth. Today, though, we're going to focus on 2 games in particular, Knockout and Muggins, which are our 2 most popular games. But before we get into the looking at the games, I just want to let you know this is going to be an interactive workshop, so I do expect participation. So we'll be using the chat feature as well as the Q&A. And so any questions you have where after I've demonstrated something, there's a lingering question, if you could put those in the Q&A for us, that would be great. And then also if you want to respond to questions, because I'll be rolling the dice and looking to you to provide me some answers, I'll ask you put that in the chat and we'll go from there. So I'm hoping that by the end of this, you see that maybe you already have some games that you used to love using with your students face-to-face, and since the pandemic, you've wondered, what are you going to do with all those games? I hope this gives you a starting point to think about how you could be using the resources that you have, using the technique that we're doing today, including a homemade document camera that I have some instructions on how to make your own. That's in our booth as one of our handouts, so I invite you to check that out. And then I'll give you a look at how it's set up here at the end. The other thing I just want to note is that if you are having some audio difficulties, it sounds like Google Chrome is the best browser to be using. So if you're struggling to hear me clearly, you might go into the Whova app through Chrome and see if that can help with the audio connection. So if there aren't any questions or technical issues, I'm going to turn off my video so that you can have full screen just be the board game, because that's where we're going to be spending our time. Okay, so those who are new to the Knockout game, I'll just let you know, there are 3 levels of play to this game, and actually all of our board games have multiple levels because we know what it's like to be educators because we are educators. You have to meet the needs of a variety of students with lots of different levels of math skills, and so we've built that into all of the games. So I'll be demonstrating how to use the Knockout game for all 3 levels, but we're going to play really just on the main level. All right, the goal of Knockout is to get your marble on both sides of a number. If your marble is on both sides of a number, that scores a point. And in level 2 of the game, 5 points wins the game. Level 1 of the game, all you need are 3 points. But if your marble is not on both sides, and it doesn't matter which side of the circle it's on, by the way, if your marble is only on one side and your opponent comes along and captures the other side of your space, that knocks you out, takes you off the board, which is really what our students enjoy doing more than anything else. It's just bumping each other from the board. What we like is that it starts to teach them critical thinking skills, or thinking outside of the box, not jumping to the fastest answer, but looking for the most appropriate answer. In the first level, we actually only need to use 2 dice. And in this round, we're using only up through 1 through 12 on the board. And students are only needing to score 3 of those points, which again, a point is anytime your marble is on both sides of a number. When we have rolled the 2 dice, we add the numbers together, and here we get a total of 10. I can place 1 marble on the 10, and that ends my turn. Or I can break that 10 down into lots of different numbers, as long as when I added them back together, I got my total of 10. The one answer I could not use is 5 plus 5. Even though it does make a 10, you notice it scored a point on 1 turn. We don't allow that because we want our students to think a good bit more. So you cannot use the same number twice on a turn. But let's hear from you in the chat. What are some other ways that you might make a 10 on the board? And I'm going to invite those who have a birthday in October. I'd like you to respond to that in the chat. Give me some ways to make a 10, putting numbers together with the numbers on the board. Let's see, do we have any answers out there yet?
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay, I'm gonna nudge you a little bit and give you a suggestion. You could use the numbers on the dice. So for example, we could use 6 and 4. Again, either side of the circle does not matter. If you're not a birthday in October, that's okay. Let's open it up to everybody. What are some other ways we could make a 10?
So we have 9 and 1.
9 and 1, excellent. Let's hear some more.
6 and 4.
Okay. Keep going.
4, 5, and 1.
Aha, now we're starting to move a little more. We got a 4, a 5, and a 1, which again, the total needs to be a 10. 5 plus 4 plus 1. How about any others?
Yeah, well, we have 4 and 6.
Okay.
And then we have 8 and 2.
Nice. Okay. 8 and a 2. We had the 4 and the 6.
Yeah, and a 7 and a 3.
7 and 3. Wonderful. Each one of these is great. They all show the ways that we can decompose that number 10, a variety of techniques for it. What I like to do is to give students a chance to think about it like this. Most of us learned our numbers in pairs. So take a look at the 6. If the 6 were broken into a pair of numbers, we might say it's a 4 plus a 2. And then if we did the exact same thing to the 4, we said a 4 is really the same as a 3 plus a 1. In that move, then, we have made our 10 by saying a 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 is the same thing as that 6 plus 4, which ultimately made our 10. Now, this is a better move for me if I'm blue because that put 4 marbles on the board instead of just 2 or even just 3. And so this is a way we're talking about critical thinking. So what if you all came back and you made, let's say you rolled a 4 and a 3 and made a 7. What are some ways that you might make a 7 to get yourself on the board, keeping in mind anything that's opposite me, if you land on it, it knocks me out of that spot? Let's hear your answers in the chat.
As our participants are thinking about it, we do have a question. How many marbles can you use in one turn?
Excellent question. As long as you make the total on your dice, there is no limit. So you must use the entire total. You cannot use a partial total, and you cannot exceed that. So as many marbles. And again, you cannot use the same number twice in a turn. So there is going to be some limit to it.
So we have 4, 2, and 1.
Oh, very nice. Okay, what else do we have?
3 and 4.
A 3 and a 4. And I will tell you, most people start with 4 and 3 because, again, we have been conditioned. We think in pairs, and that's a great thing. It's just I want to push a little more into that and say, what could we do with that pair? And someone else had noted a 3 is really a 2 plus a 1. So let's just break it apart a few more times. Now, when we do that, 1, 2, and 4 do total to 7. This is a good move because it actually, for you, knocks me off the board 3 times, but you did leave me open on the 3. So on my next roll, I have a 6 plus a 3 is a 9. I know what I'm going to do first. I'm going to lock in this 3. This is now 1 point for me. No one uses 3 the rest of the game. It just stays on the board as a point. And so we have to be a little more creative about numbers that make 3. Out of my total of 9, I've used up the 3, which leaves me with 6. And I could do a 5 and a 1 for a 6. But I think I'm going to take a 4 plus a 2 because I'm competitive and I want to knock you off the board. So that would have been my move. Does that make sense? Any questions out there about how to play knockout? And again, this is actually level 2 of the game. There's a level below that that uses only 2 numbers. Or excuse me, this is level 1 where we're only using 2 numbers. And we're only playing up to 12 because of that. Any questions out there for this?
There are no questions right now.
Okay. So what I'm going to ask you to do is we're going to play it at level 2, which uses all 3 dice. It's done exactly the same way. It's just now you can play numbers all the way up to 18 on the board. So we would add all the numbers together. 6 plus 5 is 11. 11 plus 3 is a 14. And so a player would have to think about how could I break apart a 14 on the board? You could also just take the number 14, and that would end the turn. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to clear off the board, and I'm going to roll the dice. And I'm going to call on you to give me a response, and I'm going to ask for it by name of a month, a birthday month. I have 4 marble colors because this can have up to 4 players in the game, and so each time I call out, I'll roll the dice and ask for numbers with a specific birthday month. I'd like you to share back, and I'll use your marble color. So let's get going. I'm going to roll the dice, and let's see. We have 2, 3, and 5, and let's hear what number you would like to use, or numbers you would like to use. Let's go with November birthdays. And if you're not a November birthday, you can be thinking of what numbers would you put on the board. Things that add up to 10.
Looks like our participants are thinking about their answers.
Okay. And again, you can just use the number 10 if you'd prefer.
We have a 4, a 1, a 2, and a 3.
A 4, a 1, a 2, and a 3. Excellent. And this is what we were talking about earlier. It's a really good move. It puts 4 marbles on the board, which is actually the maximum you could use to make this 10. So excellent job. That's for the black marble. Let's go on. I'm going to roll the dice again, and let's hear from December. Your numbers are 5, 2, and 6, so your total would be 13. What are the numbers you would like to use to make a 13 on the board? And you're going to be a yellow marble. How would you like to make 13? Keep in mind, if you land on anything that the black marble is on, it will bump them from the board. And if we don't have a lot of December birthdays out there, let's just open it up to everybody. You can pretend to be December.
We have 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, and 4 from a February birthday.
Okay, so a 1, a 2, a 1, a 2, a 3, and a 4. Remember, we cannot use the same number twice on a turn. And if you kind of notice, the 1 and 2 are occupied. These are not knocked off the board yet. That also serves as a reminder that we cannot use the same number twice on that turn. So let's kind of rethink that. A 1, a 2, that made a 3. So we know we needed a 1, a 2, a 3, a 4. That was the 10. We did need another 3 to that. So what are some other ways we could reset this one?
We have 1, 2, 3, and 7.
Okay, a 1, 2, 3, and 7. And if we're kind of looking at it, our 1, 2, and 3, that's our total of 6. That's this one, right? That's that die. And then 5 and 2 was a total of 7. That's a pretty good move. Anything else out there that looks, just to show some variety?
We have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 3.
A 1, 2, 3, 4, and then the 3. Again, we can't use that one, even though we would love to, because it would score a point and clear out all of the black marbles, because we cannot have that 3 used twice on that one turn. I think this one that was given out, the 1, 2, 3, and 7, is a pretty good move. I'm gonna go with that one. I'm gonna knock the black off of 3 of those spots. Okay, and we're gonna roll again. And this time it's going to be the white marble. White marble has a 5, a 3, and a 1 for a total of 9. What numbers would you use to make a 9 to block? To knock out the yellow or the black marble on the board? And let's go with March birthdays.
We have 2, 3, and 4.
A 2, a 3, and a 4. Okay, so 4 plus 3 is 7, plus 2 is a 9. Excellent. That's a pretty good move. Takes out 2 of the yellow, and the black marble will be completely removed from the board. Any other suggestions? Okay, I think that's a pretty good start. Let's take those off. Yellow is taken off of 2 places. The black is no longer on the board at all, and it comes back to blue. And blue has rolled 2 2s and a 3, so we've got a 7. How would you like the blue team to get a 7 on the board?
We have 7.
Just the 7. I kind of like that one. This is going to take out the yellow off of that one spot. And that's a perfectly acceptable move because there's strategy involved in this game as well. And we'll talk about that in just a minute. I'm going to roll one more time. This will get back to the yellow team. And, ooh, yellow rolled 3 5s. In another game, there's a bonus to rolling triples. This game, there's not. But we have a total of 15. How do you want yellow to make that 15? Keep in mind where yellow is on the board. If it's used again, it gets a point, and no one else could use that number the rest of the time.
We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Somebody saw the best move of all when you can use all 5 numbers at one time to make that 15. That's a fantastic move. It scores 1 point for the yellow. This stays on the board again. This is 5 points would win this round. But it knocks out the white completely. So it's a pretty dominating move right there. All right, that's the basic way that we would play the knockout game. Level 2 uses all 3 dice. You got the full board, up to 4 players. Lots of options on that. This is a heavy thinking game as you get into it, especially if we were sitting around a table or you were able to unmute, because there'd be a lot of arguing of which number should be used, especially if people are in pairs. If you use this as a team activity, for those of us who've been Zooming a lot in our classrooms and meetings, anytime you can put people together in breakout rooms to have them collaborate, you could have them give them 1 minute in a breakout room to come up with as many possibilities as they want to, and they have to agree as a team what's the best move, because it involves a strategy, which is a wonderful thing for board games. Strategy and problem solving come out naturally, which is a skill set that we always want to incorporate with our instruction beyond just teaching for problem solving of a test. So I wanted to ask and open this up, what are some of the math concepts or problem solving skills that we used while we were doing this game? Just put them in the chat if you would. What are some math concepts or some problem solving skills that we used?
We have decomposing numbers.
Yes.
Actually, we have that 3 times.
Okay, decomposing numbers. This is an adding and subtracting game, and a lot of times people will ask, I didn't, they'll say, where was subtraction? I didn't get to use subtraction. But in reality, it's the decomposing. Every time you put a marble on the board, you were breaking that number, the total, down to its pieces. So the decomposing is that subtraction concept. Excellent. What else do we have?
We also have addition.
Yes, we had to add up the numbers, so we had to compose those to get our total to begin with. For those of us who were learning, we learned our math facts with speed and flashcards and things like that. It was teaching us about patterns and teaching us about how numbers went together in sequence. And it was building this mental math capacity, which helped to strengthen our number sense. Like, we started to see how numbers fit together. The limitation, though, is that when we learned them so quickly and in pairs, it kind of locked our brain into thinking that that's the only way numbers can go together. And we know that's not true. But the way that we were just looking at it on the board to see all the variety of ways that we could make a 10, for example. Like, most of us, if we thought through it, we would go 9 and 1, 8 and 2, 7 and 3, 6 and 4, 5 and 5, and it's just kind of a rote memory. But if we said, but you have to use more than 2 numbers, we'd have to pause. We'd have to actually slow down and think about it. And that's what we're hoping for. We don't want to worry about the speed side of this, because that does tend to inhibit some of the thinking that we want to draw out of this, and the problem solving that goes into it, the strategies. A lot of times when we play this with students and with adults in a teacher training session, we'll find teachers who switch strategies partway through. Like, they are loving to break up all these numbers at the bottom, like this last move did, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, because they're vindictive and very competitive, and it feels so good to knock someone off the board. But At some point they realize all of these high numbers are being left alone. And so you're going to get knocked off the board a lot at the low end, but at the higher end, it takes really specific roles to get all the way up here. And so people will switch a strategy and just start using the total. And it's interesting to work the dynamics of a small team making that decision together to agree that that's the direction to go. I want to talk about real quick before I switch over to the next game. I want to show you, you may have students in your classroom, you go, you know what, they could probably do this. I have some students who might struggle, their number sense is weak, their mental math skills need some work. I want to show you a virtual tool, or excuse me, a manipulative that you could use virtually like we are. And these are with the number neighbor blocks. And so I want to just show you how you might get that concept of numbers are made up of lots of other numbers using manipulatives. And you probably have your favorite manipulatives that you've been using all along and wondering how do you put them into practice, apart from using maybe some virtual like pattern blocks, grid paper, number lines that we know are freely available online. Your concrete things you can still be using. And here's how. Our homemade document camera that I'll show you at the end. Here's the number 10 block. The 10 is unique because its size and its shape is a specific area. And so anything I fit on top of that fits that same area, it's going to equal the total of the number. So this is a 10 shown by 6 plus 4, which is what we started out looking at knockout with, 6 and 4. But we eventually saw that a 6 was the same thing. Excuse me, a 6 and a 4 could also be made as a 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4. And you see how they all still fit that same area, which is going to be that proof that this is a total. And so for students who struggle with mental math and have a hard time really conceptualizing how numbers fit together, having a visual tool, some kind of a manipulative to just make those abstract naked numbers have some kind of concrete understanding is a wonderful thing that you could be providing. And from a distance, we can still be using these hands-on tools we love to put in front of our students in the classroom. So I mentioned that there are 3 levels, and by the way, this doesn't just work with 10s, because I know you're thinking, well, I have 10 base 10 blocks. The blocks that we use, they are unique in size and shape, and so here's the 7 that we also looked at. And any combination of blocks would fit on this and still would total. There's our 4, 2, and 1 that made our 7, which was the same thing as that 5 and the 2. So you can still be using the tools you have without having to go out and do anything different. You just need to find a document camera like we did to put it together. And if you have a smartphone and some pots and pans in your kitchen, you can do this too. I said that Knockout had 3 levels of play within it. The highest level of play of this game uses place value. And with the place value, you do the exact same thing. You roll 3 dice, and instead of adding up the numbers, you actually put them together in an order. So I could put the 6 in the 1's place and the 5 in the 10's place, and I've made 56. And to the 56, I can add or subtract the 1. Let's say I subtract it, and I have 55. 55 is now the number you have to break apart on the board, just like 10, just like 7, just like 15. That 55, though, makes us use some of our double-digit numbers. This game would still be used without scrap paper or calculator. It's a pure mental math game. So for those students who are strong with their number sense, maybe they don't need any additional support. They need the challenge. Teach them how to play it at level 2, which is what we practiced, and then put them into level 3 where they try out place value. And that'll give them that nudge to see, can they do the same mental math but at a higher level? And can it be competitive and a good problem solving activity as well? Any questions on how to play Knockout, or any questions just about the game in general? If not, I'm going to switch us over to our next game. Now, by the way, these games are all reversible. And so the Knockout that we just played, when I flip it over, it has the next game on the back. And so we have all of our games. Again, we're all educators. My parents both taught public school, 7th grade. I had them both in 7th grade, which if I had my camera on, you would see all the gray hair that I got from that experience. I also went into education. I primarily teach adults. I teach GED students and train their teachers on how to teach math and make math fun. So we know what it is like to be in a classroom with limited funds and limited space. And so the games that we created, we made sure that they had different levels for differentiation. And we made them where you get two games in one because you only have to store one board at that point. We also have them in real thin boards, flat boards that are more economical and take up less space. So this game, Muggins, this is our first math game. It was developed in 1990. It has been our most popular game ever since it was developed. Knockout was our second most popular. Muggins we put into the Mensa competition in 2002, and it was one of the top 5 winners. So this is a game for kids, it's a game for adults, it's a game for people with high IQ. And those who don't like math, they do tend to enjoy playing this game because it's highly competitive, lots of strategy. All right, I have the game board set up as if there have been 4 people playing this for a while, just so you can see how the game, how it grows, and so that in our time together we can enjoy the competition a little more. So the goal of the game is to get the most points. You get a point just for putting your marble on the board. Your marble color on the board is a point. It does not matter the number it's on, it's a point. If you connect your marbles in a run or a series, however, you score bonus points. The more you connect together, the higher the bonus points go, and the person at the end of the game with the most points wins. So everybody is trying to build a run of their own, but others are trying to block them so that they cannot continue that run, and then they'll try to build theirs instead. So throughout the game, everybody is thinking, how can I build a run or how can I block one? To get a marble on the board, you roll 3 dice. You pick any 2 numbers that are shown, and you add, subtract, multiply, or divide. And that gives you a subtotal. To that subtotal, you add, subtract, multiply, or divide the 3rd number that was not used, and that becomes your space on the board. So for example, if I'm blue, I would especially like to find any number open beside a blue marble because it gives me some bonus points, okay? I also want to keep in mind where my opponent is on the board, and I might try to block them to keep them from getting any extra points. So I'm going to look at it this way to start with. I'm going to say a 6 minus a 3 is a 3, and a 3 times the 1 is a 3. That's a pretty decent move. It gave me some bonus points, but I'm going to keep looking. And when I change that order of operations, I come up with new answers. So for example, a 3 minus a 1 is a 2. A 2 times the 6, there's a 12. This is actually an even better move because it gave me bonus points and it blocked the black marble so that they cannot make those extra points. Every roll of the dice has 10 or 12 answers on the board, but I only get to pick 1 marble in that turn. So I have 10 or 12 options, but I have to select one of those to place on the board. And when I put it on the board, I don't tell you how I made the number because it's legal to bluff if you can get away with it. Leave it to a group of teachers to write cheating into instructions, right? So what I would ask you is 21 a real move or is it a bluff? If it's a real move, we move on in the game. If you challenge me and say it's a bluff, then I must explain how I made that number. If I cannot explain it because I was bluffing or I miscalculated, that marble comes off the board and you get to pick any other marble of mine off the board as my penalty for bluffing in the game. And if I can show you how I made that number, I get to take one of yours off the board for doubting my honesty. So there's give and take in this, and this is how I keep everybody interested when it is not their turn. So let's hear from you in the chat. Do you think 21 can be made from 6, 3, and 1, or am I bluffing?
So we have, yes, it's a real move, 6,
okay.
in parentheses, 6 plus 1, and then times 3.
Nice, excellent. So no fooling you guys. I would say it's my honest looking face, but you can't even see my face. So a 6 plus a 1 is a 7, and then the 7 times the 3 is the 21. Now this move, this roll, 6, 3, and 1, actually makes 14 answers on the board. Every one of the open spots can be made with that set of numbers. So this is a unique combination. It's not just 10 to 12 answers. This makes 14 different moves when you're playing the game. Excellent. Now, in the game, if you were to roll triples of any number, it's an element of luck. You get to remove a marble off the board from every player. which means you could break up a nice run like this one is over here in the corner just by taking it off. And you still get to take your turn during that with that roll. Last thing to point out is when the board fills up, and it's starting to fill up right now, it gets harder and harder to make a move on the game board. And if, 10 or 12 answers, you still cannot make a move and you passed your turn, someone playing the game who saw a real move you could have made, they call Muggins. And then they demonstrate how they made that number, and they steal your turn, and they still get their regular turn. So before you pass your turn or pass the dice, you want to make sure you've exhausted all options and make sure nothing is left open. I think that's kind of the basics. Let me see if there are any questions out there on how to play, because we're about to play.
Doesn't look like there are any questions.
Okay, so let's get started. And again, I'm going to leave this board open as if all four players are involved in the game, and we're going to try and see if we can either create some moves, or excuse me, some runs and score extra points, or if we're going to have to pass a turn. So it'll start out with blue, and we'll go from there. And I'll go back to the birthdays and see if we can get some responses from there. Okay. Let's do roll the dice here. I have a 5, a 2, and a 1, and let's do a combination for blue. Let's do anybody with a birthday in January, February, and March. Just type into the chat what numbers are open on the board that you can make using adding, subtracting, multiplying, and dividing. Each number can only be used one time. You can repeat an operation. So for example, you can multiply and multiply.
About 12.
Okay, a 12. Did they type out how they made it, or they're just giving the number? It's fine either way.
They just gave the number.
Okay, so I'm going to say they probably did a 1 plus a 5 is a 6, and a 6 times a 2 is a 12. That's a great move, again, because it blocks the black and gives the blue a bonus point. Let's hear from others.
We have 15.
15. 15 gives me a 2 plus 1 is 3. 3 times 5 is a 15. That blocks white and the yellow. What else do we have?
About 3.
A 3. We have 5 minus 2 is a 3, and 3 times 1 is a 3. It's pretty good. It builds again onto the blue. The blue might try to keep that run going.
How about 8?
8. Add all 3 dice together, 5, 2, and 1. That'll block the white over here. Okay. I'm thinking I kind of like the 12 because maybe you're wanting to block the black marble and say that's my point. I've scored bonus points here. So let's go with that one. I'm going to roll the dice again, and now it's going to be time for the black marble. A 5, 5, and a 1, and this is going to be April, May, June. Birthdays, April, May, and June birthdays. What would you like to use? Look at where you are on the board as the black marble. See what matters to you.
Okay, we have 10.
10. 5 plus 5 is 10. 10 times 1 is 10. This is where black marble gets the revenge right here. It could block in the blue and keep them from scoring any extra points. That's not a bad move. Let's hear from others.
I think it's a 24.
24. Yeah, 24 is a pretty good move over here because it's not only blocking the yellow, it's building a bonus point over here. And that's 5 times 5 is 25. Subtract the 1, it's the 24. Any others?
I think that's it for now.
Okay. Yeah, and this one, again, you're looking at it and going, well, maybe the 24 is the best move for the black marble because it guarantees points. Even though vengeance is fun, it may be that you really want to be competitive there. So let's go with that one. Excellent. And again, you only get one marble per turn, so you do need to be picky about which ones go to your strategy. So we're going to go with yellow next. Yellow marble, look at where you are on the board, look at your competitors, and let's see what you would like to make with a 4, a 3, and a 1. And let's do July, August, September birthdays. And if it's not your birthday month in those July, August, September, look at the things that you don't want yellow to have. You know, be the competitive person in that and say, I don't want yellow to see that number.
We have 1.
We have 10. Okay.
Sorry, 1.
A 1. Okay. Oh, nice. This is a run around the corner, which is a run of 3. That's 5 bonus points. That's a great move. Let's see how they made that. 4 minus 3 is a 1, and 1 times 1 is a 1. Or they could have done 4 minus 1 is a 3, and 3 divided by 3 is a 1. There's usually a couple of ways to make the same number. What else do we have?
We have 15.
A 15. A 15 would have been 4 plus 1 is 5. 5 times 3 is a 15. Also a pretty good move. You blocked the white, gave yourself bonus points. Any others?
Not right now.
Okay, let's go with the 1. I like that. A run around the corner, and it's putting a little pressure over here on the blue marble to keep that in mind. Okay, finally, let's get to white. White marble, look at where you are on the board, where if you're not the, what do we have to do? October, November, December again. Let's see, you have 5, 4, and 2. Look at where white marble is and where you want to be. Birthdays in October, November, December. And those who don't have birthdays in those months, think about what are possibilities, because they might try and bluff their way onto the board.
How about 18?
18. Let's see, we have 5 times 4 is a 20, and 20 minus a 2 is an 18. That's a pretty good move. It's a little closer to the white marble. Put some pressure on the blue. What else? Or it could have been a, no, that was how I was seeing to do the 18. Okay. Actually, yeah, they could have done 5 plus 4 is 9, and 9 times 2 is 18. Maybe that was their way. While you're thinking, I'll just point out, in the game, people don't typically share their strat or how they made the number, because again, there's that bluffing element. When we do this with students, though, we typically do at least 1, maybe 2 rounds where everybody shares how they made their number, so that everybody gets understanding of how to play the game. And then after that, students go quiet. They just think about what they want. They don't give away how they made a number, because again, you want to. They're thinking of their strategy. They don't want to share how they what numbers they're wanting to block or how they're making them.
We also have 10.
A 10. Let's see. 4 minus 2 is 2, and 2 times 5 is a 10. Okay. I'm thinking this might be a good one, because again, it's kind of putting some pressure on the blue here. They can't make any more moves this way. White might be looking around the corner to say, I can make this as a run on my next, maybe start moving it this way. Okay, that's 1 complete round of this. Are there any questions before I move on?
Not right now.
Okay. So let's talk about some of the math concepts or problem-solving skills that we used in this game. What are some of the math concepts or problem-solving we did during just those? That was just 1 full round of 4 people playing, or 4 teams playing.
We have order of operations.
Absolutely, order of operations. What else?
Comparison of numbers.
Yeah, comparing of numbers. You know, looking at not just the place of what numbers that you have on the dice, but maybe how they fit together with certain operations. So you notice that our highest numbers over here were all taken. So probably that influenced how you might use larger rolls, like a 5, a 4, 4, 5, and 6. They tend to be big numbers when you multiply them together. So kind of seeing the relationship. Okay, I don't need really big stuff. I need kind of smaller things or medium-sized numbers in here, and using some of the operation sense to go with it.
We also have math practice of reasoning.
Math practice of reasoning, yes. The reasoning about if I need a number that is a really small number, reasoning what operations will help me to bring those down to smaller pieces, which numbers are more compatible to help me get some even numbers versus odd numbers. Absolutely. What about thinking skills? Like, what kind of problem solving is involved with this?
We have multiple strategies.
Yes, multiple strategies. In fact, I'll tell you, when we do these, particularly with workshops with teachers, where you've got 30, 40 teachers in a class and they're playing competitively, one, the energy level is super high because you find out who your competitive people are in the room when they get a really good move or when they knock someone off the board with knockout. But two, you start to learn their strategies. So, for example, this board is a good example of a board that was filled with both offense players and defense players. And here's what I mean. When I walk around and I see where there are big runs being made, like lots of these runs of 3, 4 in a row, 5 in a row, something like that, those are my offensive players. Offensive players, that strategy is I want to win. And an I want to win strategy on a game board means that they're really focused on specific numbers. They're looking to find a number that is going to be next to theirs always, and that tends to make them not focus other places on the board. They're less worried about you and what you're doing and more about where can they continue to extend a run. That translates for the experience that we've had with this in classrooms. This tends to identify our students in test taking who are hasty in their decisions. They tend to be the ones that fall for distractor answers because they're so tunnel vision and what they're creating on their own work that they jump at the first thing that falls in line with what they've been wanting anyway, which was a match to what they made as their answer. So offensive players, test taking wise, tend to be the ones who make hasty decisions. Defensive players are the ones who continue to block. This is an example of a defensive kind of team or people playing the game where somebody makes a move and then somebody blocks them, and somebody makes a move and then somebody blocks them. It's kind of following around the board like that, and the points tend to be pretty low because people can't get too many bonus points. They're just blocking each other. A defensive player and a strategy tend to reveal students who, on the test, they run out of time. They're so focused on trying to go through every possible scenario to get the best possible, in this case, a block, but on a test, maybe make sure they haven't overlooked something. They tend to run out of time on those tests. And so strategy in a game is actually very telling of people's behaviors beyond just in a competitive game. The other thing I'll point out on this is this game focuses, yes, it's got critical thinking, but its primary thinking skill is divergent thinking, backwards reasoning. So, for example, if I were yellow and I were to roll the dice, I am really going to focus on making this 2. I'm going to target what numbers I would have to put together from the dice to get my answer of 2. So I'm starting at the answer and I'm working backwards from that. So let's just try it. Let's just see. If I'm yellow, before I roll the dice, I'm thinking, how can I make a 2? I want a 2 because that's 7 bonus points if I can do that. All right, does anybody see a 2 in there? Let's hear from you in the chat. Can I make a 2 from a 5, 5, and a 3? You have to use all 3 dice, by the way. And if you type it in the chat, let's hear you explain how you made that number.
Okay, we have divide 5 by 5 and then subtract 3.
Nice. A 5 divided by 5 is a 1, and a 3 minus a 1 is a 2. Nice job. Let me just say, I don't know who that was, but the most of the time when there's a number rolled by itself, or the number rolled twice, People overlook division. A number divided by itself is 1. It is one of the most often overlooked operations when the dice are rolled, if the numbers rolled twice. And that's, again, something when you're looking at it with your students is just kind of pick up on what operations are they noticing and which ones are they overlooking? Which ones do they tend to go to often and which ones do they tend to ignore? So excellent job. That 5, 5, and 3 does make a 2. And you would be working so hard to make it because that's such a big bonus point setup. That's an example of a divergent thinking where you target the answer first and then you're looking at how do you manipulate those numbers. Other thing I'll point out on the game is the numbers 1 through 9 when you work with students, and actually this happens with teachers as well. 1 through 9 tend to fill up faster than any other row on the board. And we call that easy street. And the reason for that is you can make these numbers with adding and subtracting almost every single roll. So once those get filled up, it tends to force people into using some of the other operations. So while you're working with your students and you're noticing, I have a few students who don't want to multiply. I see them not really wanting to divide. When easy street gets full, it tends to force them to participate with the operations they might not want to use, which is a reason that you might want to put people with pairs or partners in this so that they're not having to think on it alone. There's, like I said, there's 10 or 12 answers from every roll of the dice. There's a lot of things to hold on to in your mind. And students who are struggling with mental math, hopefully they won't be overwhelmed by that, especially if we put them with a partner to help them hold on to those numbers and start thinking through them. Just like with Knockout, we discourage the use of scrap paper and calculators because your mental math is what we're developing. So we encourage teachers to hold off on that. There typically is a question about, do you give a time limit for the students so that they wonder, you don't have them sitting there all day long? In truth, no, because the longer they're thinking, the more math they're doing. And the more math everyone else is doing because they don't want to overlook a move and have somebody bluff on the board, and they don't want to miss a chance to call Muggins and steal a turn. Typically, you can do, if you have 4 teams or 4 players, you can play a game in 20 minutes. It's that's typically when all 4 people are sitting, together and can talk to one another. So right now you guys are muted, but if we were able to talk out loud, you'd probably be a little more engaged. The game moves a little bit faster. So no, we do not usually encourage the use of a timer for that reason. There is a game, however, if you are short on time, you just want to get them thinking, maybe it's an exit ticket, it's a warm-up, something like that. You could do this with the game. I'm gonna steal one of the other boards over here and show it to you this way. When you have the game board set up with nothing on it, okay, you would take and roll the dice 1 time, and you need 3 different numbers, and we did, okay? And this is called dishes, by the way. This is in the directions. It's called dishes. You roll the dice 1 time, and you go around in the room, and you take turns coming up with a number that you can make from that combination. So give me some numbers. Type into the chat real quick. Give me some answers. 5, 3, and 1 can be made into what?
With 1.
A 1, because 5 minus 3 is 2, and 2 minus 1 is a 1.
We have 16.
16. I have 5 times 3 plus 1.
14.
13.
14, sorry.
Oh, 14. 14. 5 times 3 minus 1.
20.
20. 5 plus 1 is 4 times, 3 plus 1 is 4 times 5.
And 2.
2. 5 minus 3 is 2. 2 times 1 is 2.
And 3.
If you did 5 minus 3 is 2. 2 plus 1 is a 3.
About 10.
10. 10. 3 minus 1 is 2, and 2 times 5 is 10.
And 12.
12. 5 plus 1 is, 5 minus 1 is 4. 4 times 3 is 12.
And 8.
8. 5 plus 3 is 8 times 1.
And 9.
Plus the 1 is a 9.
I think that's all that we have.
How about a 15? 5 times 3 times 1. There's a 15. And
we do have 24.
A 24. A 24. Let's see.
You said no.
Nope. Okay.
How about 7?
A 7. 3 minus 1 is 2. 2 plus 5 is 7.
And 18.
18. There we go. 5 plus 1 is 6 times 3 is 18. So, are there more? We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 answers on the board. So, if we were playing this as the game of dishes in the classroom, whoever was next in line after that last move, 18, they would be looking at the numbers and looking at the numbers, try to make up some answer, and then maybe they realize there's nothing left. The first person who cannot come up with a number in a household does the dishes, and that's how we used it. It was a quick way to decide who had to do dishes that night. You're highly motivated to keep thinking on the problem. In the classroom or virtual, maybe it's the first person who or the last person who comes up with an answer. Maybe they get a bonus, they get a extra time, or they get a pass on a homework assignment, or some kind of a gimme. Maybe it's back in the day when you had chalkboard, bang the erasers. That might be your punishment instead of dishes if you're doing this together in a classroom. Anyway, that's a quick way that you can do this. If you wanted to limit the amount of time, that took us maybe 5 minutes to do that. It could be even faster if you had in teams, like the first 4 people might come together, and then the next 4 people, and they just kind of rotate through. There is a solitaire version of the game, and the solitaire version, you have 80 marbles, 1 person playing, obviously. You roll the dice, you make a number from the dice, and you put that marble on the board. You roll the dice again, you put a marble on the board, and it goes on and on and on. And then eventually you get to where a roll is made and you cannot make a move. The board is full, or you've already used up all the numbers. One of your marbles comes out of your tray of 80, and that counts as a roll of the dice. The person who best wins at the solitaire is the one that fills the 36 holes in exactly 36 rolls of the dice. I've done it twice in about 20 years. It's extremely difficult, but I'll tell you, one of the other parts of math that this works on is probability. The more you play the solitaire, the more you realize certain numbers are really hard to make on the board. So that's the game of Muggins. I told you all games are differentiated. We have 12-sided dice that come with the game. These are used in a junior Muggins for your students who just want to work on adding and subtracting. Maybe they've done excellent work with Knockout. You want to transition them to Muggins, flip the board over, use 12-sided dice, teach them how to play the game there. And then when they're ready to do multiplying and dividing, bring the regular dice in instead. And then the highest level is Super Muggins, also uses 12-sided dice at all 4 of those operations. Now, we're down to 8 minutes. I want to point out a couple of things. One is I gave you homework for you to share with your students on Muggins. So even if you don't have the game of Muggins, you can use this packet that's a handout in this webinar, so you can download those. I did include the answer key. Keep in mind, the answers are created in order of operation that I saw. There's more than one way to write order of operation notation, but this was a great activity I would give to my adult learners as a worksheet to take home after we'd played the game. It was a way for them to keep thinking, and I never would tell them how many numbers they could make with the set of with the 3 numbers I provided. I would never tell them how many answers, but I would always tell them no one has ever found them all the first time, and that was extremely motivating for them to try and beat whoever to be the first to do that. So the homework is out there, the answer key is there. You can make your own from that. We gave it as a PDF. If you want the Word file, just shoot us an email and we'll send it to you, and then you can make as many worksheets as you'd like to. The other thing I'll point out is that we have other games that you can that include, or excuse me, the same game, but like I said, it's on a thin board. So instead of round marbles, we have these glass gemstones that you can put on the board, and these also are reversible, just like we had with the knockout game. It's just a thin board. It's like a 1/4 inch thick, super, super thin, easier for you to store those in your classroom. And we have those in classroom sets for savings for teachers. Last couple of things, we have in our booth, we have free shipping as our giveaway for the conference. You can go on there, and anything you purchase during the conference, you get free shipping on that. So be sure to download the coupon for that. And you are welcome also, while you're in the booth, to look for this handout, a download of how to make your own personal document camera. So I'm going to turn my screen back on so you can see. This is my super fancy document camera. Now, we have a document camera, but I thought, not everybody has that luxury. So let me just show you what we did. So on the handout that's on our website, or in our booth on the app, it just shows you how you can make your own document camera. Here's my cell phone on a board, on top of a cutting board, on top of 2 pasta pots, and then I've got the game underneath. And so you can use your manipulatives. You can use your game boards that you have in your classroom. You do not need a fancy Elmo to do your document camera work. You just need 2 devices. I have my smartphone, and then I have my laptop. And those are the 2 devices I use to connect with Zoom. And you can do free Zoom, so no excuses. You can do this. Please continue to use your resources that are working really well with your students, even if you know that you've got to teach them from a distance. Last thing I'll tell you, and then I'll ask for any questions. On our website, through the end of December, we have free digital downloads available to you. These digital downloads, it's for our polywogs to polygons, visual activity pages for kindergarten through 3rd grade. And then we also have the free digital download of Geometry, the Beauty of Numbers. This is for 4th graders and up. It works on line art and teaching the use of protractors and rulers, and it's just really beginning linear functions. So we gave those to you guys because it's a difficult thing to teach remotely, and we really are hoping that we can make it a little easier by giving you something that's free, and you can share it with your students as often as you need to. Just go on the website from our booth, and the coupon for that is on our website, right on the home page. Put it in there, download it, keep it, use it, share it, send others to our booth. We appreciate it. 2 other things I'll point out. We have 9 games, and I said that they have for fractions, and we also have them for integers. Those are based on the 2 games we played today. So Muggins and Knockout have always been our most popular, so we put them with some of the least popular math, fractions and integers. And if you're interested in those, you can watch from our YouTube channel, which is on our booth page. Watch the videos for those. And then we have 2 kits in addition to the number neighbor blocks. We have a pre-algebra kit for visual learners to help people to learn integers in a visual way. And there's videos for that as well on our YouTube channel. Are there any questions that are out there I've not addressed?
Looks like we just have one question, and it's, where did the name Muggins come from?
Where did the name Muggins come from? Well, if my dad were here, he would tell you a really tall tale that is completely false about where Muggins came from. The truth is, when Dad developed the game, it was I had some friends of mine. We were in high school, and they came over one weekend, and Dad had us try it out. And he said, "What do you guys want as the name of the game?" And we said we like the Muggins that's used in it. He got that term from cribbage, which is he grew up in Maine, and playing cribbage, if you mispeg your points, you end up someone can steal the points by calling Muggins. So he added that into the game. We liked it, and that's what we decided to name it. Dad will tell you it's something related to an old English folklore character called Charlie Muggins, who was a scoundrel and often tricked people. And he believes that I was the one that brought that to his attention in a fairy tale land. Oh, Father, you should call it Muggins for Charlie Muggins, an old English folklore character. So should you ever hear his version, you know the truth. Any other questions?
We don't have any other questions, but thank you very much, Heidi. That was great.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate the help. My team behind me doing all of the fielding of questions. If you have some questions, I'm on here. Feel free to ask them, or stop by the booth and grab that coupon for free shipping. Download the how to make your own document camera and use it with your virtual classroom, and whatever manipulatives and games you already have. Keep using those. Keep using those with your students, and best of luck with the rest of the year.
Thank you, Heidi.
Thank you.